Good morning, guys. Let us solve some numerical problems as a part of revision classes. Okay. Two coherent waves of same amplitudes at a point. Two coherent waves of same amplitude arrive at a point with same phase difference. In the first case, 0 degree. In the second case, 180 degree. What will be the net amplitude at this point for the two cases? First of all, understand what is the meaning of coherent waves. Waves having same frequency, same time period, same amplitude, for that matter having same velocity, maintaining some constant phase difference. They are called as coherent waves. We have discussed, the only thing is we did not name them. Now remember, coherent waves are the waves having the same frequency, same time period, maintaining same phase difference between them. Two coherent waves, for example, if they maintain same constant phase difference between them, then it is called as coherent waves. Now, what will be the net amplitude at this point? Now, let us write the equation for such waves. We know that for such waves, yxt is equal to a cos kx minus omega t. Let us say at that point time t is equal to 0. At t is equal to 0, then we can write the same y at that 0. It becomes a cos kx. This is for one wave. Let me write it as first wave. For second wave, y2 x0, it is also having same amplitude. It is given here. A cos kx. That why it is a cos kx, it is given here. They are maintaining zero phase difference between them. Phase difference is 0. So phase difference is 0 between these two. Then when they interfere, what is the net amplitude? We have studied this earlier. If this is a cos wave and if there is another cos wave of the same amplitude, right, this represents cos wave, then the resultant will be having magnitude double the amplitude. It will have a double amplitude. If it is A and A here, and the amplitude here becomes 2A. This is how it will have a net displacement having double amplitude 2A, right? So net displacement y1 plus y2 is equal to 2A cos kx. 2A cos kx, very simple. Therefore, the displacement, net displacement y is equal to 2A cos kx. Therefore, net amplitude becomes 2A in this first case. Net amplitude becomes 2A. This is what already we have studied. In the second case, what is happening? The waves are out of phase. So this is first part. Now I am writing second part. Now phase is equal to 180 degree. That is equal to pi. This is phase difference. If one is a cos kx, another one will be a cos kx plus pi. So that you can see the phase difference here is pi. So a cos kx becomes minus A cos kx, or it becomes A sin kx minus A sin kx. I think cos kx plus phi is minus A sin, not minus A sin, it's minus A cos kx. So, if such waves interfere, what happens? In this case, I can write, if this is a wave having A cos kx, y1 is equal to A cos kx, if it is interfering with having another wave having same amplitude with minus A cos kx, you can see it starts from minus A here. Where there is a crust, there you will find trough. Where there is a trough, there you will find crust. So when they interfere here, you will find the resultant wave is going to be having zero displacement. Y is equal to 0. So amplitude becomes 0, because here you can see this is interfering with negative displacement. So net displacement becomes 0. So crust is overlapping over trough and trough is overlapping over crust. As a result, net displacement becomes 0. Therefore, net displacement y is equal to y1 plus y2 according to principle of superposition. Therefore, if you add this A cos kx minus A cos kx, it becomes 0. Therefore, net amplitude is also 0. Net amplitude is 0. This is how we find out. I think this is clear, right? So, in the first case, such a interference is called as constructive interference, where the amplitude is doubled. When the pair of coherent waves superpose over each other with a zero phase difference, then the net amplitude becomes double, 2 times the original amplitude. If on the other hand, if the coherent waves interfere or superpose over each other with a phase difference 180 degree, when they interfere with a phase difference 180 degree, then such a kind of interference is called as destructive interference. As a result, the net amplitude becomes 0 and net displacement is also 0. Intensity is 0. Okay, now let us see second problem. Let us see this second interesting problem. This problem is based on the terminal velocity. This is from the topic fluid dynamics. Okay, properties of fluids. So there we discussed what is the meaning of terminal velocity. Terminal velocity of a raindrop, it is based on a terminal velocity of a raindrop. When the raindrop falls from the cloud, it falls under its own weight, under the acceleration due to gravity. But its free fall is opposed by the buoyant force exerted by the air plus the viscous force which is given by Stokes law. Viscous force which is given by Stokes law, and this viscous force is directly proportional to the radius of the drop, as we have studied. So there are two forces which are opposing the falling raindrop. The one force is the viscous force, another force is buoyant force. Both these forces oppose it in the vertically upward direction, whereas its weight is acting vertically downwards. At one moment, what happens? At one moment, the net force acting on the raindrop becomes 0. if this is a raindrop, its weight is mg and force due to buoyancy is vertically upwards and force due to viscosity is also vertically upwards. When Fb plus Fv, when the net force becomes equal to weight, when weight becomes equal to Fb plus Fv, then the net force acting on the raindrop becomes 0. The drop continues to move with that final speed with which it has attained at a particular moment. So that speed is called as terminal speed. So the terminal speed of a falling raindrop is the speed attained by the raindrop when the net force acting on the raindrop is 0. The speed attained, the final speed attained by the raindrop when the net force acting on the drop is 0 is called as the terminal speed or terminal velocity. So 8 drops of radius 1 millimeter, each falling down with a terminal velocity 5 centimeter per second, coalesce means combine, coalesce to form a bigger raindrop. Find the terminal velocity of this bigger raindrop. Right? Now we will write first the equation for the terminal velocity. Terminal velocity or terminal speed Vt is equal to 2 by 9 times pi r square into g into rho minus sigma whole divided by eta. Already we have derived this. This is by using this condition, using the buoyant force, Archimedes principle and viscous force, Stokes law. We equate this sum to the weight of the drop mg. So then we get this equation for terminal speed or terminal velocity. Now you can note down from this, the terminal speed is directly proportional to square of the radius, where r is the radius, g is acceleration due to gravity, rho is the density of the falling raindrop, density of, you can say, water drop, and sigma is the density of air, eta is the coefficient of viscosity of the air, right? With this we can note down that terminal speed Vt is directly proportional to square of the radius. Is directly proportional to square of the radius. So we can say that larger the radius, more is the terminal speed. Smaller the radius, less is the terminal speed, because it is directly proportional to square of the radius. Now when 8 drops coalesce to form one large drop, volume of the 8 spherical drops of rain must be equal to volume of that one drop. When 8 drops, these are perfectly spherical, as we know every fine water drop or a raindrop is spherical in shape because of surface tension. When 8 drops coalesce to form one large drop, then volume of one large drop is equal to volume of 8 drops. Volume of 8 drops. So we can find out, if we assume that these tiny drops are having small radius r, then volume of 8 drops becomes 8 into volume of each drop drop is 4 by 3 pi r cube. Volume of each drop is nothing but volume of sphere of that drop, spherical drop, right? Is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube, where I have taken capital R as the radius of this large drop. R is the radius of this large drop, and small r is the radius of small drop. So it is given here 8 drops coalesce combined to form one large drop. Therefore, volume of one large drop is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube spherical drop is equal to 8 times the volume of each drop, that is volume of 8 drops. So using this 4 by 3 pi cancels, therefore we get r cube is equal to 8 small r cube. Therefore r is equal to 2r. If you take the cube root of this, you get r is equal to 2r. Therefore radius of this large drop is 2 times r. So we can very easily find out the terminal velocity of the bigger drop, right? Therefore terminal velocity of the bigger drop, now Vt dash is proportional to 2 times r whole square, then it becomes 4r square, right? 4r square, then the terminal velocity becomes 4 times. Terminal speed of the large drop becomes 4 times. Therefore radius of the large drop becomes r is equal to 2r. Now if terminal speed of large drop I am taking it as Vt dash, then Vt dash is directly proportional to r square. Vt dash, Vt is directly proportional to r square for a small drop. Now Vt dash is directly proportional to r square, where Vt dash is the terminal speed of large drop. Therefore if you substitute, if you just take the ratio, you take it as 1 and take this one as 2, call this one as 1 and this one 2, then Vt dash by Vt is equal to r square by small r square. So r square is, you see, 2r whole square, and here it is small r square cancels, so you are left with 4 times. Vt is already given. Terminal speed of a small drop, each small drop is 5 cm per second. Vt is equal to 5 cm per second. Therefore Vt dash is equal to 4 times Vt. This is terminal speed. Terminal speed of large drop. So terminal speed of large drop is equal to 4 times Vt. 4 into 5. So it becomes 20 cm per second. So that's how we can calculate terminal speed of large drop. So it's quite evident, as the dimension, that is the radius of the drop increases, the terminal speed also increases. If the radius of the drop decreases, the terminal speed decreases. This is a very important thing. Sometimes you will see thin clouds will be just flying in the air. The reason is the thin clouds are having very tiny raindrops, very tiny drops of water, and the radius of these drops is very small, then the terminal speed will be negative. It may be negative or it may be 0. When the terminal speed is 0, these tiny drops do not reach the ground. So they will be just carried away by the wind. They will be just carried away by the wind. So this is one of the reasons why the thin clouds, the clouds which are having less density, do not pour the rain. Right? The clouds will be just moving away because of the fact that the radius of these tiny drops is very small, and they will not be able to reach the ground. They will be just carried away. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.